Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 9 of Parker X. In this episode, we talk to Jason Scott and Joe Dudek from JD Enterprises. Hope you enjoy. How's it going, guys?
Good.
So, Joe, we've known each other for a little while, and I think I've heard your name kind of throughout the industry for a long time, but we really didn't start working together, kind of talking until recently. But so I don't know the whole story here, but kind of take us through how'd you arrive at this point today, and why did you start? And you're obviously you started JD Enterprises. What did you do that? Why did you do that?
Because I got sick of making money for everybody else but myself. But
that makes sense.
Started off with central parking 30 years ago.
30 years ago. Wow.
And started here in Pasadena. And
okay.
After a day of working there, they gave me a location, Jack Lane lot. And I remember second day of work, my cashier calls in sick, and I'm in a suit working the booth in a place that we affectionately called the crack lot because there was crack vials all over it. I have all these people coming out that knew me because I worked in the gym industry before, and they're like, "Hey, Joe, great. What are you doing?" "Oh, I work here." "No, I manage it." And I'm in a suit, and I was like, okay, so that was my start, and I come back in, go through every type of operation that you can imagine, airports, hospitals, universities. I've done it all.
Is that all with Central?
Yes.
Okay.
And even started an off-airport business with Gary Coots. We started, looking for properties, and then I would build them out doing the operations, and found that I got it. I got parking, and it made sense to me. Then later ended up managing LAX, where I met Jason. Jason was I brought him in as my operations manager.
Nice.
And that was 800 employees. It was a Teamsters, a Teamsters location. It had all the
that's really the fire when it comes to like a parking operation.
Oh yeah.
Stuff. It doesn't really get a whole lot more difficult.
No, it was crazy. It was nonstop stress, and it was just. I did it for 8 years.
I think they have the same equipment there they did 30 years ago.
Yeah, they finally replaced it. They got ZI.
That's
but
right.
Yes, they did. They did have that same equipment. So it actually put me in the hospital.
Wow.
For a week. It was
Both
just so stressful.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
Wow.
But I had enough. There was like a management change, and we kind of had a different outlook on how to manage that place. And
different opinions on life.
Yeah, definitely. And then I ended up, leaving there, and I said, I'm just going to try this. Instead of
Wait. So how long ago was that?
5 years. We started
Really?
in January of 2015.
Nice.
And then
Congratulations, by the way. It's just such a.
It is.
It's
It's
a good
great.
story.
It's scary at first
Well, I'm
because
sure.
you don't know what to do. You don't know who's going to call you, and you just start calling friends, and they give you business. Hey, can you do this? And you say yes to everything.
Pretty much.
Yep.
And then you find out that the experience that you have in parking, you know it. You don't think you do, and you don't know where to start. And then all of a sudden they say, "Hey, can you do a review on this, or can you do an audit?" And you say, "Sure, I'll try it." And then you find out you know it. It's 30 years experience. You find
That's cool.
you can do it.
So, Jason, tell us about how long you've been doing it for? 12 years, you said?
Yeah, about 12 years now.
How did you start?
Well, like most people, I don't think I realized I was going to end up in parking. But back when the mortgage banking industry kind of took a dive, I was a mortgage banker.
Okay.
Found myself out of a job, and I applied for a toll booth attendant. And when I went in for the interview, it was at Central Parking at the time. Ended up as a manager instead of getting the toll booth attendant job. Was out there for a couple of years, and then kind of got to a glass ceiling where I said, I want something more out of this. I think
Sure.
There's a lot more, to it. When I was going to the manager meetings, I could see there's a lot more to parking than, running the toll roads. And at that point, I found there was an opening at LAX, and that's when I ended up interviewing with Joe. And, after I got that job, he's really opened me up to a lot of different stuff within parking. And it's pretty interesting along the way. There's a lot more to it than most people think. It's not just parking cars.
Yeah, it's always been hard to explain what you did to other people and have them actually take it seriously sometimes.
Exactly.
It's always been
Always
a
love
challenge.
that question.
Yeah, it's like,
What do you do?
What do you do?
I park cars.
Property
Yeah, I
management.
park cars.
Yeah.
You know, my wife hated it. I used that term forever. It's like, what do you do? I park cars.
Yeah.
Oh, because you'd actually explain the whole thing, and they go, "Oh, you're a valet." And you're like,
No.
"No, not quite, but it's
Well,
okay.
well, what
Nothing
do you
wrong with
mean?
being a valet, but that's not what I meant to say."
Well, what do you mean there's parking? Well, did you pay for parking here in LA? Yeah.
Everybody hates to
Somebody
pay
had to
for
manage all
parking.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny.
And that's the worst too, is paying for parking when you're in the industry.
Yeah, I know. You know what though? What being in the park side of it, like, especially when it's our product, it's like, you know what? I'm going to pay. I'm not even going to ask for a validation because I want them to make money off of our product. I want it to perform, and so we're not gonna cheat them out of this little one you can get from me.
Yeah.
So, JD Enterprises. So, what are you? Who are your customers?
Everyone from operators to property owners to anyone that has anything to do with parking. They always want to know more. There's
Sure.
always an issue in parking. When you start out in parking, you think, oh, this is simple. What is there to parking? There's a cashier, there's gate arms, but then you get into it and you find, wow, this is really complicated.
I think it's become more complicated when it went automated.
Yes.
Because there was no person to like deal with the things that would go on, and then you start throwing in all the aggregators on top of it,
Absolutely.
all the things that are going there, and even something simple like we're in a WeWork today, being able to deal with the WeWork client at the facility is not easy for a lot of properties or buildings to deal with.
We found that technology has actually hindered the progress. It's so funny. We go in and do audits and reviews, and you think with all the technology that's out there, things are going to be cleaner and better. But when we get into these reviews, it's different. The old school was everything was manual. You're looking at, you're doing daily audits and so on, and you're really looking at the operation and you live it. And now with the technology, we're finding out that there's a lot of hidden stuff that they don't catch.
I think a lot of the aggregators they've picked up so much speed that they've almost forced the hand of some of the facilities, especially like off-air stuff. I mean, if you're not dealing with some of the big aggregators around an off-air, you're not going to have any business. And then it's not always integrated with the product that's actually there. So it ends up being this super manual process. Entrances not even connected to exits. Sometimes they'll slap a reader up that's reading some of it. So I agree. The audit burden has only become more with some of those things.
Yeah.
I think that's why I think that they really do need to be integrated.
And nobody
very
really
clean
audits
way.
the
Yeah,
aggregators.
that's true, right?
So you have all this
Well,
information.
I don't think you can. There's not enough data there
You
to
can.
actually do it correctly.
You can. You just have to make sure. I mean, there's canceled transactions and things like that you have to account for. And like I said, the technology becomes an issue at that point because you feel so comfortable.
Yeah, there's a false
Sure.
sense of security with it.
And they're like, how, as soon as they get a fully automated garage, they think, well, nobody's going to steal. It's credit card only. Well,
Right.
guess what?
Yeah, it's still possible.
Yeah, it's very possible.
So let's kind of dive into just a little bit. Like, so for a parking operator, what service are you bringing to them specifically? Why should they call JD Enterprises?
Well, we can help and we do third-party project management.
Okay.
So when there's an install, say you call us, and instead of utilizing the parks project management team, you have a third party that kind of is taking care of the aspects of what an owner or an operator would look at. And we can work with both of them. We can communicate with the operator, we can communicate with the parks, and prevent problems that happen beforehand. Like we'll go in and we'll meet with the parks group and say, this is how it's going to go down. If this is a municipality, if this is a private Class A building.
What are some big projects you've worked on recently?
Santa Monica we completed. We're in the
Nice.
middle of Metro, the parking guidance install for Metro.
Okay.
And the complications of that, just the different locations. There's 80 plus locations throughout Metro, and each one of them is different. Some of
Yeah,
them
sure.
aren't in the best area, so we have problems with theft and all of that.
So you're working directly for owners as well?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes, we do the reviews, and then it really behooves an owner to go with the third party project manager. It's going to represent them properly. And if you know ahead of time what the problems can be, you can circumvent a lot of problems by understanding.
I think it helps everyone to have a third party involved on some of the project side. So I did it when I was, doing my past life, doing parks projects as well. It was, we brought in the best people we could find. If there wasn't one involved, we usually volunteered to be the one to bring someone in, I think that also the focus you get as well.
Sure.
Yeah, definitely.
And that buffer.
Well, when you're on Parkside, your own project managers trying to do 10 other projects at the same time. And, because you need to leverage them properly, right?
Yes.
But
and just knowing how it goes and
Sure.
then being able to foresee problems before they turn into something bad is great. And we've developed a network of, subcontractors that we can help them call on to if there's special needs or anything like that.
So you guys work directly for parks manufacturers as well.
Yes, definitely.
Any projects you're working on right now that you can talk about, or?
Yeah, I mean, Jason, you can talk about up north and what we're doing with Ski Data.
Yeah, there's Santana Row. Right now it's in the first phase where we're just doing access controls, and the later phase towards the end of the year is going to be a much larger couple garages.
It's a big project.
Yeah, some major projects up there. They got the Westfield happening too, right across the street, so they're kind of both going off around the same time.
We'll have to see which one gets it done first.
Yeah. It is. They actually do have a race going.
It is.
Yes, it's been exciting, actually. We've learned more about the business. You think after 30 years you know everything about parking. Then you get into the park side and you realize it's a whole different outlook. They don't think like operators.
Well, no, they don't. Right?
No, they want to dump and run, pretty much.
Well, I mean, it's a project, right? You want
Yes.
to start and you want to finish.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Try to step out of it as soon as you can, but that doesn't always work as much as you'd like it to. So, just because you guys have both been in the industry for a long time, I think there's a question I usually like to ask people is, what was true when you started that's no longer true? What was like a tried and true thing that if you came into the industry in the last, 10, 20 years ago, it's like, things are like this is how it works. Like, what's a truth that's no longer a truth anymore?
I don't think there's a sense of focus like there used to be. I mean, the companies were so competitive. Operators were so competitive that they focused on every aspect of it. Like with central parking, they taught us everything. We hired, fired, we did it all. We did the accounting. We built a business every time we opened a project. There was a checklist. We had to go pull the permits from the city. And I don't think there's that same sense of ownership. Now they depend more on the equipment, the technology. So there's like a lack of this connection between what it is. I spent a lot of time.
Central was unique. I mean, a lot of people in the industry right now that are in high-level positions within operation management are all former Central guys.
Yes, and I've worked for most of them. I was hired by Jerry Skelet and Cindy Huth, 30 years ago. And Monroe Carroll had a very different outlook on how he wanted that business to run. I mean, he was an engineer. His father gave him these locations in Nashville and said, "You're going to run these." And he's like, "What?" I went to Vanderbilt, and then he turned it into one of the largest parking companies there is. But it was great.
So when you work with clients now, and we'll let Jason answer this one. What's kind of the, if you could walk into any job working with clients today and you wanted to like stop them from making one of the biggest mistakes that they usually make, that you have to kind of wind them back from, like what would that advice be for them?
I think the biggest thing that we see across the board is it's always internal communication and that infrastructure. And a lot of times, it's things beyond their control. It may not just necessarily be the communication between, person A and B. It could be the programs or applications that they use. It could be antiquated, outdated, things that kind of holds their hands behind their back and doesn't allow them to have that complete visibility. And I think that's, one of the biggest things that, hinders people.
I think you find a lot of people are pretty comfortable with the way it is.
Definitely.
Comfortable with what they know. And
unless you have that eager employee, everyone likes the status quo.
It's interesting. That's good. So what do you think about the things, the changes you're seeing today? Like what sort of, There's a lot of changes coming to the market, obviously. And a kind of recurring theme we talk about a little bit is the influence of technology.
Absolutely. I'm a tech guy. I love seeing the new technology. Parking it's it is what it is. It can be dull, but it does make it a little more vibrant and exciting seeing, new technologies for automation and, changing the way that we make money and operate the industry.
I think a lot of people think some of the newer, like the existing parking facilities and stuff will, it's kind of turn into more like mobility centers and that sort of thing. But
Right.
it still feels like that's a ways out.
And it's always interesting seeing, the perspective of Europe where, everyone says it's, several years, maybe even decades ahead. So you kind of already see what that transition is going to be, but then, apply it to, how we operate here.
I haven't seen, so I think that when you think about Europe, and I've spent a lot of time there working with European manufacturers and stuff, so I think a lot of the things that they know is already happened or that the people are used to or accustomed to. It's not a perfect fit. I actually think Australia is a better market for us to look to than Europe in a lot of ways. Like we get a lot of our innovation from Europe, and that's really driven by the fact that the labor cost has gone so high, and that the price of fuel is so high, and they have smaller vehicles and electric vehicles. So that's driven a lot of that innovation. But when you think about markets that you really can look to from a U.S. perspective, I really think Australia is the best one for us.
Yeah, there's a lot coming out of Australia and New Zealand also.
It's more thought leadership than it is necessarily like technology in a certain way, or just they're taking things that already exist and kind of putting it together in a way that I think Americans
that's
are
a good
probably
point
more
about-
like Australians.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. About Europe, though, it hasn't changed much. It's still the same technology that they've had for 20 years.
Well, I think I think you're very dense in Europe too, where in Australia you have kind of the wider open spaces. You have the giant malls and you have a little more room. So I just think seems to be a better fit.
There's a lot of talk about autonomous vehicles coming in.
Yeah.
You hear that all the time. I just don't think that's going to come.
I think the best
anytime
thing
soon.
that people can focus on right now is the electric vehicles. That's here right now. Dealing with aggregators, rideshare, like all those things are here right now today. Autonomous vehicles have a long way to go before they could be at scale.
Sure.
I mean, there's no doubt that they're here. There's no doubt that they're working and operating, and people are doing different things with them. But before they're really at scale, it's going to be a lot longer than anybody realizes.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I like to use the internet sales analogy. When the internet really first came out, like late 90s, when it really kind of started going in a bigger way, everyone said by like 2005, all shopping would be done online.
Right.
No one was ever going to buy anything in a store. All the stores would close, and 100% of your shopping would be online. And here it is, 2019, and then they're like at 25%, 30%.
I feel like I'm 95%.
Yeah,
online.
I'm definitely 95%.
Amazon all the way.
There's a brown package in front of my
But,
house.
go to a
every day.
mall, right? Go to but that's not everything you're buying.
Yeah,
But if you-
like clothes, things like that, you got to try on.
I don't know. I buy my clothes online now. Like once you have the company you like, you have a few flubs in the beginning, and then you figure it out. But yeah, it's certainly moving that direction.
But I think you're going to see the garages convert. You're going to see
Well, they'll have to.
where there's going to be little mini restaurants like McDonald's and Taco Bell all in a garage that may not service people there, but will be there for delivery. So I think you're going to see a different use out of the garage.
So that's interesting, right? So we worked with a large mall in Century City, and one of their biggest things, pain points, was dealing with the Uber drop-offs, because they really didn't have a good place to do it inside the mall, and their grace period was a little bit longer or it was a little bit too short for them to effectively get in, work with the traffic, go make the drop, and then get out without having to have some sort of fee associated with it. So being able to actually have the facility directly in communication with Uber, that when they were being dropped off, one, they could monetize it in a different way, instead of trying to charge them at the barrier on their way out, and then just make it kind of seamless.
Definitely.
So they're passing the Uber driver a token or some sort of a barcode or NFC ticket or something like that to enter and exit the facility.
Yeah, now Uber's doing
Or their license plate.
Yeah, definitely. A voucher program. Uber's doing a voucher program where you can buy a set amount of rides, and so you can draw them to your location by buying this and advertising Uber.
So I've seen the
think,
schedule rides thing is cheaper now, but
I think it is Century City, or it's a Westfield Mall that's adopted that right now. It's one of the first
okay.
pioneering that voucher program. Seems like a great idea, though.
Look, I mean, any way to embrace it, I think, is going to be good. So, just going back to your clients for a minute, like, what's like the newest thing you're having to help your clients deal with, and like something that's new in the last couple of years or last 12 months, even like maybe 3 years ago you were hearing about it. Now
EV charging stations.
EV charging, yeah.
Yes,
So, what do you do
huge.
about that? I mean, somebody camps out in the space all day long and they're not paying any extra for doing it.
Well, they're starting.
Some you
they're-
can charge. Yeah.
Definitely, they're charging now.
All of them, or just here and there?
No.
Not all of them, but you'll see them move to that, definitely. And the
Okay.
problem is the infrastructure isn't set up for it. So they build these. If you have, what is it, Jason? You pass so many that you need to have a bigger grid. So it's a problem. You need to think of it
Well,
now.
that's the biggest issue,
Yeah.
right? This is more of a job for electrical contractors than it is for
Absolutely.
the end product, because not really.
It's a serious problem. They're going to have to retrofit for hundreds of thousands of dollars if they don't think of that now, because you can only have so many. Once you go past a certain number of charging stations, you have to have a totally different, electrical system.
So, what are they going to do about the fact that I pull in? I'm 90% charged, but I'm going to plug in anyway because I'm an electric vehicle and I can park in this premium spot. So I plug my vehicle in. I probably only need an hour of charging, but guess what? I'm there for the day for work. Now I've just occupied and camped out in your EV parking station that you probably paid, what, $100,000 to put in
Yes.
per space?
Yeah.
And I'm camped out there all day.
It's going to be a problem. It's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we can do, though. We can help you solve that problem.
It'd be interesting if the car could give feedback to the garage that it was done charging on some level.
I'm sure it will.
I'm sure it can
Yeah.
or will. It's
Yeah.
probably doing something like that today, but then you're going to have like an EV charging station line that it's almost like the on the airplane, how the power
Yeah.
migrates
Exactly.
from
Well,
one spot to
You
another.
always do like an overstay function or something.
Yeah.
Use some parking guidance to flash.
You're going to have license plate associated with that at some point, right? Then either you're going to scan your ticket or whatever you use to get in right there at the EV charging station to add the charge to your
Yeah.
something to encourage people to leave the
yeah,
space.
definitely. But I think you'll see more and more charging stations. I mean, the vehicles are getting cheaper, and so they're going a longer distance too. And now I think, why not move to it?
I was actually thinking about doing it, but then they're taking away that you can't ride the carpool lane
Anymore.
right?
Yeah.
They're not giving those stickers away after the end of this year or something.
Yes, exactly.
So that was kind of it's like,
Well, it's getting too crowded.
yeah, well, I'm sure it was, yeah. Wasn't any difference.
No. And besides, they want to charge people to
Sure.
use that lane too, so it's a big revenue.
Think that's coming now?
Yeah, well,
It's going to have to, right?
I mean, we all pay. I mean, if you want to get somewhere and you're on that lane, you can now. What's it? Metro Pass will get you for $3. You can go 20 miles or whatever.
Yeah, that's on the 105, right?
It's on a bunch now.
Yeah.
I use it all the time.
I lived back east, so we had toll roads everywhere.
Yeah.
And they were still jammed with traffic. And you had to pay, and the traffic still sucked. So it was,
The cities really need to come together. If you have that technology, you could use it more throughout the system. One of the reasons that you can't just use LPR and not have gates is because there's no way to charge them. But if the cities came together and they said, look, you're not going to be able to register your vehicle if you don't pay these fines, it's going to be an issue. But nobody's moving together.
So I've been to a lot of installations in Europe that are ticketless. They still have a barrier on entry. There's still a barrier on the exit. I mean, you need to pay at some point if you want to get out of the facility. But I just wish for the day that license plates in the United States would be streamlined enough like they are in other places that you could
Yeah.
really effectively capture 99.99% of them. It'll be
Yes.
good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they have facial recognition now. They're starting to use that at the tickets fitter and the exit. So when you come in, they'll recognize your face.
That's amazing. I've heard about that for a little while. I
Yeah.
wonder if that'll go
It's starting
mainstream.
to get attention.
Yeah.
And I think, look at you pick up your iPhone now and it recognizes it pretty
Seems to be able to
quickly.
figure it out, yeah.
So it's better than a ticket. But I find it hard to get away from the ticket too, from an audit standpoint. Just
I think it's going to be a while before all of these other technologies are really at scale.
yes,
I mean,
definitely.
we can do them. They're possible technologies there. But then my grandma pulls up. And she's got a flip phone still.
I think grandmas have phones too now.
I think so too. Some
I
of them.
don't think they're the same grandmas that they used to be. They're all using technology too.
Well, I think about my mom. She's 65, and I mean she has an Apple phone, but she doesn't really do a lot with it. She texts and FaceTimes with her grandkids. That's like the.
My mom passed a few years back, but she was 82 and she had it all. She had
Really?
iPads and iPhones and computers. She was fully into it. So
That's cool.
I think that that's a little bit of a myth of the number of people that don't have phones or
It's
can't
like
use it.
90% right now.
Yeah.
Smartphone penetration.
Yeah.
If you got a phone, like 85 or 90% have some sort of a smart device.
Yeah, I mean, you always envision this poor old person that can't find their way. I just don't think it's like that.
They're all dying at
Yes.
this point.
How do I get in the garage with my phone? No, I don't think it's like that.
So we got a few minutes left here. Why don't you tell a funny parking story?
Oh God, man, I don't know if I can tell it on here.
Use some fake names.
You might have to, you have to clean it up a little bit.
Yeah, all mine lead to bad situations.
You got one, Jason? You can't do it.
Nothing that I could share.
Let me think here. Think of a story that, and I have so many too. I just really,
I'll tell one from a NASCAR event, so you can think about it while I'll tell
Okay.
this one. I was talking to a buddy of mine who used to do the parking, he used to follow NASCAR and do the parking for all the NASCAR events. I think his favorite story is he's sitting there flagging at the event, people are coming in, and next thing you know, he sees two guys running up the side of the road, and they've got each of them has an ice chest, and they ran out of gas like 3 miles back at the gas station. And they had to make a choice between buying gas or buying beer
Oh,
to go to the event. So here they come running with their ice chest up to the event.
I do remember one. There's so many, but
I know you got some good ones.
I know. I just
We'll have to do an after hours episode.
that would
There
be
you go.
much better with my stories anyway. They always end up us coming home at 3 a.m.
We'll have to start a new podcast.
Yeah,
then.
the real podcast.
Yeah, parking stories after hours.
The truth behind parking. Nobody wants to hear about strip clubs and bars at
No.
I do have one. I oversaw the valet at Burbank Airport.
Okay.
It was one of my portfolios.
Probably my favorite airport, by the way.
Oh,
Yeah.
mine too.
Yeah, it just-
absolutely.
Yeah.
Where else can you be 15 minutes before your flight takes off and still make the flight?
I know.
I love that place. In the valet, we were doing about 40,000 cars a month there. It was at one point it was the biggest valet in the country.
Wow.
And we would just have so many cars going in there, and we had to park them a mile away. So we were touching vehicles 8 times. It was crazy. Different lots and moving them around. And so you would have this high volume. And I'll never forget this Mercedes pulls up, black Mercedes 500 something. I don't know the number, but guy gets in, takes it, leaves.
Not one of the cheap ones.
No, not one of the cheap ones. And right after that, a couple seconds later, another Mercedes exactly the same pulls up, guy gets in, they put the bags in the trunk, they take off. About 15 minutes later, the first guy calls back and says, "Hey, this isn't my car." We both jumped into cars. Goes, "What the hell are you giving me this car for?" So we actually had to go drive someone down there, take them, pick up the cars, and switch cars.
No
They were that close together.
Wow.
Yeah, so quite a few of those. But normally they end up as you're parking your boss, or you're parking someone, a senior VP of some company, and you damage their car or lose their keys. Those have happened 100 times. Chuck McElvey, do you remember him?
Yeah.
He's like an investigative reporter. He comes into Park 1 at LAX, right? And he's rushing, and he's just rushing to the airport. He comes back, and he's all pissed off because he says we stole his glasses. And the attendant, he's yelling at this parking attendant, "You know who I am. I'm going to put you on the news, and this is crazy." And he's like, "Sir, what did your glasses look like?" "They were turtle, blah, blah, blah.
Put
And
it on
he,
his head.
yes. What he's doing. Are those them? He's like, one's off. Yeah, so there's plenty of those.
That would be bad. Well, good. Okay, thank you guys for dropping by.
Yeah, thanks for having
Thanks a
us.
lot.
We'll catch up again soon. That's
Definitely.
good.
Thanks a lot.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Bye. Hey, so thank you very much for listening. If you made it through this far, I really appreciate it. We're very excited to be bringing this to the industry. There's not really anything else like it. Once again, this is Lester Mascon. Name of the podcast is Parker X. Please like it. Please share it. That means the world. Please share it and rate it and tell us what you think of the show. We're going to try to keep doing a bunch of these, and your comments and feedback is really important. Also, if anyone else would like to be on the show, please drop me a line, and we'll be happy to get something put together. Thanks.